I guess the worst of this week was definitely though Daddy's Head. Daddy's Head is directed by Benjamin Barfoot, starring Rupert Turnbull as the kid in this, named Isaac, and Julia Brown as Laura. That's the two main characters. There's another character too, a couple other characters, but it's pretty much a twofer. Basic concept is this. Um, the father has recently died, and he was married to a new wife, not the biological mother of the little kid. So basically, since dad has died recently, you've got stepmom and stepson, living together, and obviously that could be a little awkward right out of the gate. She seems like the kind of person who probably wasn't super excited about having a stepkid anyway, and now all of a sudden, she is the lone parent deciding if she should have a stepkid because the people immediately are coming to her saying, hey, you can put him into foster care, you can put him into the system. You're not really required by law to stay as his parent. She's like, no, I can do this. I'm going to give this a go. And the kid's very drawn into himself, as you might imagine. He's, his dad just died, so you couldn't, blame him for that. And he's the kind of kid that kind of just stays to himself. He's always playing, video games on his. It's not his phone. It's like a device, like an old PSP or something. But it's not. I don't think it's a period piece. So it's just some kind of like a mobile device that he's playing on. I don't know what it is, but it's constantly beeping and making sounds, kind of annoyingly so. Like as I was watching it, I kept hearing the same kind of cycle of sounds coming from his little game machine, so it sounded kind of like artificially thrown in there. Either way, he's just either doing that, staying in his room, drawing sketches all over his wall, which look like spooky kind of sketches. And they have a dog. Does the dog die? Yeah, the dog dies. I'm going to spoil that because how could we ever have guessed that a dog in a situation like this might die? I mean, how could we have figured that out? Anyway, the dad was an architect, so they have this really modern, fancy house, basically out in the woods, but it's really like angular and looks almost like one of those '60s style, you know, huge open windows and a giant reflecting pond out one window that leads out to the forest, that kind of thing. And she's getting drunk every night. The kid's not talking to anybody. And every night they start to have occurrences happening. There's lights, there's sounds. They think they hear something. They're woken up in the middle of the night. They walk out into the forest. So really the movie becomes, are they being haunted? Is dad returning? Is there a monster out there? Is it aliens? What is it? At one point there's seems to be a dark shape in the corner of the room, and they go to investigate it, and it skitters off like really fast, like I don't know, it looks like it might be a creature or something. You're not sure. And the only other thing I'll mention, because I don't want to really spoil it, but there is like this kind of this stick structure in the woods. Almost looks like a fort, but it's shaped more elaborately. And the kid's thinking like maybe his dad's spirit or ghost might have built it because his dad was an architect. But you're wondering, is that really what it is? Is it folk horror? Like I said, is it aliens? Is it creatures? Anyway, that's the basic setup of this movie. Um, this boy, oh boy, this movie for me though didn't work. And that the biggest thing I have with this movie, I guess I would say, is this is very much in the line of low budget indie horror movies that try to create a lot of mood and a lot of expectation, but just don't do much with it. And I don't know how to describe it any better than that, but if you've seen those kind of movies, they can be really frustrating. Now, sometimes the mood and the dread and the build up and the slow burn of it all can be enough if the payoff feels enough. But in this situation, I really don't think it just doesn't go anywhere. And I hate that same review that's basically says like, oh, this would have been great as a short. You hear that a lot too. But the kind of is kind of true in this one. And maybe it would be good as a short. I will also say the other knock against this movie is when it does get to the payoff, when you do see what's happening, that isn't very satisfying to me either. It's underwhelming. It doesn't really terrify me or horrify me or creep me out. It was kind of borderline silly. You don't see it much, which also is probably a budget constraint. But once again, hey man, if you're gonna have this kind of movie, you've got to at least at some point show us what the thing is, even if you don't think it's the best you could afford. Although I know I'd almost always prefer a good, cheap, animatronic, you know, actual monster of some sort, puppet monster or something, than just kind of a hazy nothing that you ever really show us. And I'm not saying this is a monster per se, but this is more in the lines of some of those movies where it's like, is the creature the manifestation of their emotional state? That kind of stuff. We get a lot of those lately too. It seems like it's kind of falling into that category a bit too. Um, just not a whole lot here. Pretty. This is one of those, if I could have fast forwarded it, I probably would have. I don't do that. But if I was just like at home and I was just on like my streaming service, I would probably have shut it off or gone somewhere else. Because it's just, even for I didn't look how long it was. It's like 90 minutes. It's not very long, but it seemed kind of long. What am I going to rate this one? It didn't really anger me. So I was going to go lower than 2, but it didn't make me mad. And it seemed like the people were trying to do something the best they could. And it was an earnest attempt, and it wasn't insulting my intelligence, just wasn't exciting me. So I'll go 2 stars on this one, but not a recommend for sure. And that's Daddy's Head. Also, why is it called Daddy's Head? I have no idea. I expected to see a head. I expected to see the head get, decapitated or, come floating after them or something. And, call it Daddy's Head. And plus, it's kind of something icky about the title. It doesn't sound like it could be off-putting. Anyway, no thank you. No thank you.